Hi, I'm Ken Jacobson, one of the DocLands programmers, and I'm back here with director Firouzeh Khosrovani and producers Fabien Greenberg and Bård Rønning to talk about their film Radiograph of a Family. Welcome back, Firouzeh, Fabien, and Bård. Congratulations to you again on the film. And let me begin the Q&A by directing my first question to producers Bård and Fabien. Fabien, you're a French-British filmmaker who attended college in Edinburgh. Bård, you're a writer and filmmaker from Norway. How did you guys get together? How did you meet and come to form Antipode Films? And how did you come to make this this wonderful film with Firouzeh?
Well, we met for many years ago. I would say 15 years ago, but we started Antipode 8 years ago. Basically, a common friend. We got a common friend which was attending the same film school I was attending, and I got to know Bård from him. And when I came to Norway, because my girlfriend is Norwegian,
still the same.
What happened is like had an idea for making a film and kind of collaborated with Bård because he was a friend of Bård, and we started to collaborate together and made our first film in 2013 and set up Antipode. So this was the first time we collaborated.
Yeah, we've been directing films together ever since, and we started producing other people's films at a later stage. Firouzeh's film was the first film that we started collaborating on back in 2016, and it was really the first. It goes way back in the making, 5 years back, and it's been really successful. So we might keep producing other people's films as well as making our own.
So basically, we in 2015, in December 2015, we had a film in a festival in Tehran. And we were in Tehran to present this film, which festival is called Cinema Verité. And then Firouzeh approached me. I was there in the festival. And we went to have some drinks and like not allowed in Tehran, but anyway.
Drinks.
Yeah. Then she started to pitch her idea and got very interested. And when we came back to Norway, started to look for funding, and the process started basically from this time, December 2015.
So I think you've just expressed why we all miss in-person film festivals so much, because amazing collaborations between filmmakers happen at events like that.
Yeah.
So.
Online.
Yes. So Firouzeh, congratulations to you on the truly wonderful, beautiful, amazing film. What made you want to make a film about your mother and your father and your family unit? And also just what was the creative starting point for the film, and how did it take shape?
My life experience, my childhood memories, my observations, my imaginations on a revolution that took place in our home and divided in two. So the experience of being torn between two realities, two ideologies, two lifestyles. And then the fact of the family album, which was the fuel of my imagination for this film, was the tore up pictures that this was the beginning of the film, that the idea of why my mother tore up the pictures, and from her past, her memories, her when she was without a job, and she wanted to eliminate these pictures. So that was the idea of doing a film on it.
Yeah, that's such a striking moment in the film when we see those torn up pieces of pictures, and then the young actress playing you, draws on, to make them whole again. Is that, I'm assuming that's something you actually did, is it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is I experienced this to transform the family album to my coloring book and to complete the missing parts of the pictures, Torah pictures, or ripped out pictures. So that was based on this memory.
So I'm just curious, you have made a number of films. You've been making films for over 15 years. How, obviously the subject matter here is something that is has been a key part of your life and who you are. I'm assuming, but it took 15 years for you to make this film. Why come to it in 2015? What made you ready to take on the film at that point?
That was a life project. I was thinking to make this film, but I'm happy that I did it with enough distance with the past, and to take this distance and to try to transform or interpret my experience into cinematographic language, into art. So I wanted to I was looking for a very appropriate form for this film. I didn't want to make a memoir or like an essay film just. I wanted to have some shooting scenes beside all archival footages and non-official home videos, and also the pictures of family album. So it's based on the true photos and true story, but in a very stylistic form that I wanted to try to find it. It was a very big challenge for that film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think the multiple elements of the film are what make it such a rich tapestry, and each one of those, I'm sure, represents a huge challenge. I did want to ask you about that first image that starts the film and that incredible voiceover where you say "Mother married father's photograph." That photo is so evocative, and it's both bizarre and seemingly so natural. Can you talk a bit about the role that photograph played in your own memory, in your own life, and in your family's life?
Yeah, that was an absurd story that mother married a photograph of father symbolically and also in reality. So I wanted to use this, but I didn't know at the beginning for the opening of the film, because it was very difficult to find how to enter in the storytelling. And when I had experienced really a deepest challenge to find this form of voiceover and dialogues, fictionalized dialogues, that I wanted to stage dialogue between my parents. And so like this, I could tell the story even before I was born. So even before my birth. So this was the point. I thought it's very classical to begin with the marriage, but at the same time, it was the good entrance in the story with something very absurd, and the sentence, which is very minimalistic. So that was the choice.
You alluded to the dialogue in your answer there, and I wanted to ask you about your writing process of having to kind of get into the mind of your father and your mother to be able to think about what they would say in certain situations and how they would say it and the tone with which they would say it. Talk to us a bit about your writing process.
Yeah, it is based on what I have heard. They told me some stories. My mother has told me that the first night in Switzerland, she felt out of place. She felt really, she didn't know how to pray, where to pray, and where is the direction of Mecca. And that was, I created a conversation on this space. So everything is really happened and everything was familiar, but I wanted to find a very creative writing for this. That was the experience. It was very difficult to find a very good dosage of dialogues and voiceover, and not giving a lot of information. Let's to talk the images, and then to enter with a very simple, subtle way of writing, not giving a slogan, not being very provocative, and very, I wanted to be very subtle.
The writing is very spare and poetic, really, and you know, it does take us inside the marriage, I think, very you know, very intimately. I'm just, could you, you said, you know, it was a classical approach to start with a marriage or with a wedding. You know, that there is something very classical about your film, and I mean that in the highest sense of that word, in terms of classical arts. Everything is so well balanced, you know, both the different elements, the archival footage, the photographs, the radiograph images, the original footage that you shot, as well as a balance between these characters and a sense of giving each one equal say and equal time. Talk to us a bit about, and honestly, I find that classical approach to be very rare in documentary. Talk to us a bit about how you manage to balance all these elements and not allow any one element to kind of overwhelm the other. Mm-hmm. And then as a second question, I guess it's really about fairness. Like, how I feel the film is very fair to both your mother and your father. And that's not an easy thing to do as an artist or as a child. So if you could talk about that as well.
Yeah, I really experienced very strong feelings during the years of making this film, from pain to sufferance to joy to pleasure, and it was really like a therapeutical process also for me, to dealing with all my past and my family story. But I was at the same time dealing with the film materials. So for me, my parents were emblematic protagonists. And I made a timeline on the paper to have the revolution exactly in the middle of it. So for the first half is my father's spear, is my father's word, and it's exactly the same as the history, the time was different. And after revolution, it's my mother's turn. So I wanted to give exactly balanced space for both lives. And so it's really calculated, every single word and every single image, to have the exact symmetry and to have everything in the first part in the second part, in the so Islamic Revolution took place, and then everything is changed, and exactly is the reflection of outside, of out of home, inside home. So the fatwas, the laws, Islamic laws enter at home. The naked painting was taken, fall off the wall, and wine, everything which was sinful was eliminated from home. So these are all planned, and were very difficult to find this balance.
For you as producers, Fabien and Bård, how did you work with Firouzeh on the film? Were you watching cuts along the way? Were you assisting with the incredible archival footage? And what were some of the major challenges that you faced as producers?
Yeah, we were in the initial processes, I would say, like the first 2 years, 16 and 17, we were trying to kind of guide her. The story being such an incredibly personal journey, we had to respect that and kind of keep a distance and let her, of course, kind of write the story, because it was a lot of writing involved, and she was experimenting and dealing with lots of different choices in the way of, until she managed to find the form, which is a sort of experimental dialogue, right, with two actors playing the parts of mother and father. But then later, when we got going and getting into the production phase, for us it was kind of keep doing that work, and also provide financial fundament and finding archive footage as well, and taking part in different creative processes that Firouzeh would like to have us involved with. So we've been kind of
but we've been following quite closely the edit process, because she was always coming with new rough cuts and everything, and we were coming, and like when you were mentioning, for example, the balance between one side is the father, the mother. At one point we had those big discussion, like on the second term, it was really only about the mother, because the first, if you see, the mother is quite involved in the first part, and suddenly at one point there was one rough cut, it was only the mother in the second part, and the father was really in the back, you couldn't hear him, but she managed to put subtly like back the father inside the second part, where it's very subtle, but it's been a lot of process like this where we've been in discussion and in this kind of edit process, mainly in the editing process. Yeah.
And we tried to push Firouzeh more personally into the film physically as well. So we wanted to have her in the last scene, for example, where his arm is giving the mother the Quran, and then later holding up the radiograph transparent image. We wanted Firouzeh to be in that image, like kind of confronting the mother, or kind of so that you see that Firouzeh, oh, now she's here. But she had some, she's a stubborn, perfectionistic, and very smart lady.
So yeah, we started by talking about the first image of the film. Let's talk about that last scene, which is so extraordinary, and it's, as a viewer, it's both kind of shocking, but also feels completely logical as an ending to the film. How did you approach your mother to be in the film, and did you, had you been interviewing her for the film just to find out more information about, the relationship and about the family, but specifically talk about that last film, if you could.
Yeah, I was keep talking with my mother about everything, every details, but I knew that it's not appropriate for this form to have interview with her, because it's out of the grammar of the film. I established a very different form. If I wanted to have interviews, it was completely another film. So for the last scene, I wanted, for in the second half, at some point we missed the time. We don't know when it is in the it's after Iran-Iraq war, which year we are. And that was what I was really trying to do, it to not calculating, because I wanted to extend it to story of the others. And I wanted to find that it is so intimate, so universal. So I wanted that this revolution could be also other revolution, ideological revolutions. The home could be not just for Iranian family, it could be also in other places, in other times. So I wanted to have this dimension of the narrative. But the last scene that when I wanted to show the radiograph was that, okay, my revolutionary mother, my radiologist father, I'm scanning the body, scanning the house, scanning the history, scanning the body. And so that scoliosis was very meaningful for the film. So I wanted to have it as the last image. And so this is something, the deviation of the spines and a system. So that was a very, I played with these concepts, but it's not important if we notice it or not, but it is a strong image anyway.
Talk a bit about the footage shot, the original footage that you shot in that house. You know, the set for that is it seems like the perfect location for all the themes of the film and the visual reference points and the doors that can be shut in the middle. How did you go about finding that location and making sure that it was just right and shooting in it?
I was looking for a very big and open space. I wanted first to shoot it in a studio. Then I was lucky to find this space, and it was exactly fit with my as a narrative space of this film, because there was a very long space with a door in the middle which could be opened or shut down. And just once I wanted to have it closed. And so the scanning of the home with like a radiography machine is going, and the scanning of the time. And it's designed for first times from the fatherland, and then after the revolution from the opposite part, so from the motherland, mother territory, or mother lifestyle.
There are glimpses in the film of how the revolution affected you growing up, but if you could tell us a bit more about the role that the revolution played in your formation as a young person and as a young adult, and how it continues to impact you today.
I think for my generation, we are all affected by a revolution that is a very strong and important historical moment, and it entered in our family life, in our domestic life, in every houses, and so it affected every corner of our private personal life and family life. So I think every families with this film could recognize something that is similar. So I'm very happy that it could be linked to the others' experiences in the same time. So private matters like family outreach became public concerns. So it is something that penetrated in our foyer, in our domestic life. So it is a very common experience of my generation.
How would you say you were shaped by your mother and your father? How would you say your identity has been shaped by your mother and your father?
It is clear in the film that I'm sometimes there and I was between two spaces, and this is a part of my identity. I recognize it that I have experienced both sides, and it is internalized in my personality. And it is also a good capacity of adaptation and understanding and giving right to both parts. And my personal life and in a very vast extent of the society, because it's the same dichotomy in Iranian society. It's the same bipolarism.
I wanted to ask you about the visuals are so striking, but equally impressive is the sound design and the score for the film. Can you talk about how, and this is really for anyone, how the sound design came together and supported the narrative, and also specifically, if you could talk about your composer. I think the score for the film is extraordinary.
Thank you. For the visual part of the visual style of the film, it was a very hard to choose between plenty materials that I had, very good materials, and I had to eliminate lots of them. And I was lucky to work with Bård and Fabien, and they were very trying to help me to choose, and I was very obsessed to have the perfect things. That perfectionism was very difficult for me, for them, for the film. But finally, I'm happy that we have a very coherent style, visual style of the form of the film. For the music, I had the pleasure to know the composer from many years ago, and I was talk with him about this film from the earliest stage of the development of the project. So we were every year every month in touch to. So I was telling him exactly the score, which were my father's favorites of classical music, and it was in my childhood memories. And then some parts that he composed for the film, for the credits, and somewhere in between the film. And he's a very good pianist. He's internationally renowned composer, and it was a very good collaboration with him.
What I'd love to hear what the three of you are working on now, or what's next. Can you give us a brief glimpse into your what we can expect to see from you hopefully soon?
Still waiting from Firouzeh, so you're gonna.
Firouzeh, she's working on a script right now. It's more into fiction, so it's going to be interesting to see. I think she's got like 30-40 pages or something. I don't know. Tell us something, Firouzeh. What's the spirit?
I wish to collaborate with them again. It was a very nice and special collaboration. I don't know if they they want to work with me again. Because
Well, I think we're out of time, unfortunately. Again, I just want to congratulate the three of you on this extraordinary film. It provides such a wonderful insight into one family, one country, but it's so universal, and it's so beautiful and meaningful. Thank you so much for this great film and for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
you.
It
Thank
was
you.
our pleasure.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.